Okay, I'm going to hit record now. Here we go.
I just sent the test.
Yeah, but I don't always look
This
at my...
conference will now be recorded.
Awesome.
Okay. It's August 12th, 2020 at 7 p.m. I call tonight's council meeting to order. It's a virtual meeting via GoToMeeting. Tonight's meeting is available on GoToMeeting.com and cable channels Optimum 77 and BIOS channel 28. You may email questions or comments to the Borough Clerk in advance at lfernandez@hawthornenj.org or log in from your computer, tablet, or smartphone at https://global.gotomeeting.com/join/472-199-829 or dial in at 312-757-3121 and the access code is 472-199-829. Roll call.
Bennett. Bennett.
Here.
Thank you. Leosa.
Here.
Lane.
Here.
Mealy.
Here.
Skiara.
Here.
Wotecki.
Here.
Matthews.
Here.
Thank you.
Flag salute. Please rise and join us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty
And justice for all.
Okay, thank you. Adequate notice this meeting's been provided by the annual schedule of regular meetings, herefore adopted and posted on the public bulletin board of the municipal building, emailed to the Hawthorne Press, the Herald News, the Record, the Gazette, and all persons who've been requested of mailing of such schedule. Copy of such schedules remained on file in the office of the Borough Clerk from and since December 12, 2019. In accordance with the executive orders issued by Governor Murphy relating to COVID-19 pandemic, this meeting will take place in a virtual setting on the GoToMeeting platform. Approval of minutes. Can I have approval of minutes for the virtual council meeting of July 22nd, 2020?
Motion.
Motion by Witecki, second by Sierra. Any discussion? Roll call.
Wotecki.
Yes.
Skiara.
Yes.
Mealy.
Yes.
Lane.
Yes.
Leosa.
Yes.
Bennett.
Yes.
Matthews.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Public comment. I'll now open the meeting to the public for comments on the agenda items only. If you'd like to be heard, please call in at 312-757-3121. Access code is 472-199-829. Or email lfernandez@hawthornenj.org. Or if you're already on the meeting with us and you want to use the chat feature, you're welcome to do that as well. Well, I don't see anyone chatting. Anybody emailing?
No, President.
Okay, well, I entertain a motion to close this public portion of the meeting.
Motion moved.
Motion by Lane, second by Witecki. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Adoption of ordinances. We have ordinance number 2254-20, an ordinance to amend chapter 25 of the Code of the Borough of Hawthorne, the Department of Public Safety, Article 2, Police Department, Section 25-3, Table of Organization, subsection C, so as to increase the number of lieutenants from 4 to 5. Public hearing. I'll now open the meeting to the public. If anyone desires to be heard regarding this ordinance, please call in now. Dial in at 312-757-3121, access code 472-199-829. as we discussed last, when this was introduced, there's no new hires. This is a internal, promotion, of an officer, as probably two at this point. But there's no new hire as a result of this, and the cost implication is probably a minimal, effect on the budget at this point. Okay. Anyone wish to be heard on this ordinance? I see there's, Kathy, we'll get to you under the regular public portion, since we already closed the regular public portion. That'll fall at the end of the meeting. Well, seeing none, I'll entertain a motion that the public hearing on this ordinance be closed, and that it be resolved that this ordinance was posted on the bulletin board, at which public notices are customarily posted, published in the record, and available on the borough website. Copies of said ordinance were made available to the general public. Now therefore be resolved, this ordinance be adopted, and the clerk is authorized to advertise the same according to law. Have a motion.
Motion.
Motion by Sierra. I wasn't sure who seconded that.
Witecki did. Second.
Kentucky seconded that. Roll call.
Bennett,
Yes.
Leosa,
Yes.
Lane,
Yes.
Mealy,
Yes.
Ciara,
Yes.
Wotecki,
Yes.
Matthews.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Bond ordinance number 2255-20. Bond ordinance providing for the improvements to the Washington Avenue sanitary sewer system and work incidental thereto, all in the borough of Hawthorne in the county of Passaic, New Jersey, or appropriating $150,000, therefore, and authorizing the issuance of bonds and notes for the borough financing the same. Public hearing. I'll now open the meeting to the public. If anyone desires to be heard regarding this ordinance, please call in now and dial in at 312-757-3121, access code 472-199-829. Or use the chat feature or L. Fernandez at Hawthorne NJ.
I have no emails, Council President.
Okay. Seeing none, I entertain a motion that this public hearing on this ordinance be closed, and that it be resolved that this ordinance was posted on the bulletin board, in which public notices are customarily posted, published in the record, and available at the borough website. Copies of said ordinance were made available to the general public. Now therefore be resolved, this ordinance be adopted, and the clerk is authorized to advertise the same according to law. Have a motion.
Motion.
Motion by Sierra, second by Lane. Any discussion? Roll call.
Wotecki,
Yes.
Ciara,
Yes.
Mealy,
Yes.
Lane,
Yes.
Leosa,
Yes.
Bennett,
Yes.
Matthews.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Bond ordinance number 2256-20. Water utility bond ordinance providing for the various improvements, including mosquito system upgrades, valve replacement at multiple locations, pump replacement at the Mary Street pumping station and water tank, and additional pump replacement, repair, system rehabilitation, as may be identified as part of the installation anticipated herein and hereafter described, all in by the borough of Hawthorne in the county of Passaic, New Jersey, appropriating $575,000, therefore, and authorizing the issuance of bonds or notes of the borough for the financing of the same. I now open the meeting to the public. If anyone desires to be heard regarding this ordinance, call in now and dial in at 312-757-3121. And the access code is 472-199-829.
Yeah, I have none, Council President.
Okay. Seeing none, I entertain a motion that the public hearing on this ordinance be closed, that it be resolved that this ordinance was posted on the bulletin board on which public notices are customarily posted, published as a record, and available on the borough website. Copies of said ordinance were made available to the general public. Now therefore be it resolved that this ordinance be adopted and the clerk is authorized to advertise the same according to law. Can I have a motion?
So moved. Motion.
Second, motion by Bennett, second by Sierra. Any discussion? Taking care of our infrastructure tonight. Roll call.
Bennett,
Yes.
Leosa,
Yes.
Lane,
Yes.
Mealy,
Yes.
Ciara,
Yes.
Woteki,
Yes.
Matthews.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Ordinance number 2257-20, an ordinance to amend 2253-20, fixing the 2020 salaries, wages, and compensation of the employees of the Borough of Hawthorne, County of Passaic, in the state of New Jersey. I'll now open the meeting to the public. If anyone desires to be heard regarding the ordinance, please call in now at 312-757-3121, access code 472-199-829. Those that don't remember, this was to adjust the dispatcher's salary that didn't quite make it into the ordinance from our budget discussions. And that was pretty much it, right, Eric? Volume?
Yes, we also have the receptionist screener for the
Oh, yes, the
municipal
new
building.
position. Yeah, the new created position because of the COVID, yes. No? Can't imagine we're gonna get much discussion on this one.
Yes, I have nothing, Council President.
Okay. So, seeing none, I entertain a motion, public hearing on this ordinance be closed, that it be resolved that this ordinance was posted on the bulletin board on which public notices are customarily posted, published in the record, available on the borough website. Copies of said ordinance were made available to the general public. Now therefore be it resolved this ordinance be adopted and the clerk is authorized to advertise the same according to law. Have a motion.
Motion. Second.
Motion by Sierra, second by Bennett. Any discussion? Roll call.
Woteki,
Yes.
Ciara,
Yes.
Mealy,
Yes.
Lane,
Yes.
Leosa,
Yes.
Bennett,
Yes.
Matthews.
Yes.
Motion carries.
All business. Joe, we'll start your way.
All right, just give me a second.
Your mic's not on.
Thank you. I see that the tree at 108 Bamford has been taken down, but the stump remains. We have plans to take that stump down?
Yeah, the stump removal is always part of the engagement with Downs, and they will be back. I'm sure that, particularly in the past week, they've been otherwise engaged, but we will follow up on it to make sure that it does get removed.
And that's all I have for old business.
Mike?
Thank you, Council President. I just want to follow up with the mayor and Eric about we talked last meeting about the Nissan dealership properties and cars on it. You guys are going to find out a little bit of information on it. This is abandoned vehicles, and I didn't know what the status was.
I can tell you that where the used cars used to be, I think we made an agreement with the Premio people for them to rent that from the owner of the lot to get their trucks off of Utter Avenue. And I
Good
think they
idea.
have taken advantage of that. I think they do have long-term possibilities with Nissan when they get bought and reopened. At the other portion of the used car lot, I'm sorry, the repair center, I really don't have anything to report on that.
Okay, thank you. One other thing, just a little follow-up with Lori. Do we have any idea of the status on the installation of the new technology equipment? We know what,
Yes, Councilman, I met with our vendor, DPS. He was in town, and he stopped in and had a chat with Nora and I. Nora had some questions just regarding some court details and stuff. He's building the system now in their shop. He is needs to speak with Pascat Data as far as the network and IP addresses and technical stuff like that. We had hoped for a end of August install, and just because we had thought we were maybe going to do in-person meetings in September. I believe that's on hold. Eric can correct me if I'm wrong. So I did express that to DPS that, whatever time he needed, he has a little more time because we're not scheduling in person as yet. So I would say in the next 3 weeks, 4 weeks. But it's rolling along, and they build it in the shop first, and then they bring it here, and he'll need the rooms. They'll be out of service for maybe 3 days, so he'll work the install around court should they be back in business on Thursdays. But it's moving along nicely. Thank you.
thank you for the update. That's all I have, Council President.
Rena?
Thank you. One, thanks you, Eric and the administration for working with our resident on 8th Avenue with the tree on his house, and Downs for taking care of it. Appreciate it. I want to bring up this concern. This is about Diamond Bridge and the speeding. It seems to be getting worse, especially when we close the streets Friday through Sunday. Just sitting in Primo or Mulligan's or even D's in the morning, the cars are really speeding. So if we could maybe patrol that better, it's really a concern because the cars are just really speeding on Diamond Bridge. Just want to raise that.
Okay,
And lastly, that would be
follow
great,
up on
Eric.
that.
Okay, and lastly, if we could just remind all the businesses who has outdoor dining to pick up their litter and their cigarette butts, any debris that's in their area, for all of the areas. I know that when we had the commission meeting, there was concerns about litter in the center of town. So I just want to bring that to your attention about, in general statement, with all the outdoor dining, and that businesses need to clean up after themselves. And that's it that I have.
I didn't think we were enforcing any of those rules.
What do you mean not enforcing? If there's litter and cigarette butts that their customers are, they need to clean it.
I don't know any reason they wouldn't be expecting to pick up their litter, so we will follow.
No, because I had voiced my concern about some other concerns about some of the restaurants, and I was told that right now, although our ordinances are in force, but we're just not going to enforce any of these. I can forward you back the email you sent me if you'd like me to.
I think that was regarding timing, sound.
We never
Things
said
like
we
that.
aren't enforcing everything. We are relaxing where necessary to allow them to operate. They don't need to leave litter in order to be able to operate.
But breaking our noise ordinance, that's okay.
I think your point was made.
Thank you, Council
As
President.
long as they don't litter while they're making noise, I guess.
It depends if they're breaking bottles.
Yeah, it's quiet garbage.
Anything else, Rena?
No, Council President, no. Thank you.
Bruce, that's a perfect segue right into you.
No old business, sir. I think everything's fine.
Got it. Dominic?
I'm okay.
John?
Yes, Eric, is there any update on the house on Brookside Ave? I went by there again the other day, and it is just so overgrown, it's a mess. The garage doors are almost falling down.
John, I'll give an update on that. It was going to be part of my report, but I will give an update. The property owner at Brookside Avenue has filed an appeal of the construction officer's determination of unsafe structure with the Construction Board of Appeals. That matter is on for a hearing tomorrow. I will be attending along with Rich Stewin. Unfortunately, because the appeal is pending, we are limited in our options, but we also expect that the Construction Board of Appeals will back us up in our efforts to try to bring that property into some compliance. There are a lot of issues with that property, John, some of which I will not be in a position to discuss in this forum, but trust me, we are well aware of it, and right now we're just waiting for tomorrow's hearing so we can move further along.
Okay, thank you, Michael, I appreciate it. Also, Eric, you and I spoke with regard to the clothing bins at the recycling center. Did the companies give you any indication as to when they may reopen so that this way if our residents have used clothing or anything, they can bring it down there?
No, they haven't, but I can reach out to them and find out if and when they plan to start collections again.
Okay, thank you. That's all I have, Mr. President.
Okay. I'll follow up on the old sidewalk improvements from PSE&G, Eric. Do we know whether there's been any improvements made on the list that they had?
I took a ride last week. I didn't see anything that I saw that was missing. If there's a particular area where you see where it isn't done, let me know, because if it was there, I totally missed it.
Okay, I have not driven down, or I was away for 2 weeks, so I don't know. Joe, since you're the resident jogger, were there areas that you saw that they were delinquent in that they have not fixed yet?
Everything for the most part looks really good in that area. The PSE&G work around your neighborhood though, and around Ward 1, District 1, it definitely could use some help. I know that it's not them doing it. They have an outside company. It does look like Sanzari and Sons. They have the color, the brown, deep brown color. It's not PSE&G doing the road work. They outsourced it to another company. But I know that they did pave a couple of the roads up there, but it's pretty rough because I guess it's spotty due to the COVID situation.
I'll get a report from them on when they expect to complete as of yes, maybe before the previous council meeting, maybe 2 council meetings. They still had like 60 properties where they had to get in the new line, and which stopped them from being able to repave on those streets. But it's been 4 to 6 weeks since then, and so I'll need to get an update as to where they stand right now.
Okay, and as a follow-up to your email that you sent us today about any outstanding people that might be without power, I put a quick note out on Facebook today to any residents that might be without power, because there was a couple residents that posted a couple days ago that said when they did not have power, they were marked down as a restored person. I didn't get any feedback from anyone that said, oh, I'm one of those people that still does not have power. So I think there's anyone that has commented back to me to give you feedback that we're still without
Council
power.
President, we're under the belief through public service in the county that everyone in Hawthorne has been restored.
I know, but like 3 days ago, there was 2 people, and for example, the person down the street from me where the tree was across Lincoln Ave, she was in the system as a restored power when the tree was clearly still across the wire, and she was not. So since then, she has been restored, but there was a false positive or false negative on her account to begin with.
They also,
I can agree
One
to
of the
that.
things
because
I saw is we went from 5 to 1,100, back to 5, and then to none.
Okay, well, that's
But
a
we
good
had-
thing.
We had a couple that I forwarded to Eric, and he took care of them immediately. I thank you very much for that, Eric. It was Monday into Tuesday. I forwarded you. It was Tanny's
Yeah.
email that you took care of.
Yep. And my contact at PSE&G got right on it, had the crew out there, and they got it restored. And I'm glad they were able to do that, because that was confusing information, and maybe it would have prevented the repair had that information not come forward.
Thank you
Looks
for
like
that.
we're good. Looks like we're good now. So, old business, or new business. John, we'll start your way.
Okay, thank you. Eric, on Grand Ave, there's a new salon that's there, where the flower house used to be. There's cones in the street for about 2 weeks now, right in front of that business. There's no work going on. I don't know who put the cones there, but it's kind of a tight squeeze with regard to the parking lot there and traffic. Maybe they can be removed so that this way there's a little bit more room for traffic to get through.
Okay, we'll look at it, see what's going on.
Okay. And also,
That's the gentleman that was on Warburton, right across from the municipal building, next to the chocolate box. He moved down to the Bates flower house there.
okay. And also on Fourth Ave, is Public Service have any plans on repaving that where they put the gas lines in?
Every place where they put gas lines in, they will repave, at least curb to crown. I will check on Fourth, because and that's been there for quite a while.
You talking
thank
North
you.
Fourth, John?
No, Fourth Ave. It starts around Van Winkle, goes all the way down to Macaluso's.
Because North Fourth had some issues in front of one of our police officers' mother's house, where we've had to fill in a lot of patch that was left over from a PSE&G issue, and I hear from her frequently.
No, John is referring to what I was referring to prior, and
The new one.
I thought that's Fourth Ward, or is that Third Ward?
That's Fourth.
So that's what I was referring to. It really does need some attention. It's been a really long time, but Eric says he's gonna get. Well, no, that was one of the first streets that got done.
There are a number of
I don't know that was any one of their bigger projects, but they still did it, and so they still need to fix it.
Okay. That's all I have, Mr. President, for you.
Dominic.
Okay.
Bruce.
Yes, Council President, do we have a handle yet on how many trees we lost in the borough on Tuesday and whether any homes got damaged?
Eric?
I don't have a count on the trees. I'll see what we can put together. I haven't heard of anything other than minor damage to homes. There were a couple places that there were trees or tree branches on houses, but nothing appeared. There appeared to be no structural damage with that. These are the ones I'm aware of.
From what I saw when I was out and about on Wednesday, Downs did a pretty good job of taking care of some of those problems and getting that mess cleaned up. So kudos to them and the other companies that might have been involved.
I think we got lucky.
Yep.
Rena.
No, I'm good, Council President.
Michael.
Thank you, Council President. Just maybe some clarification. I know we're in the midst of doing some road improvements, and I've had a number of residents approach me and share some concerns. One was specifically about if we determine that a tree has to come down because of road improvements, they felt there was no notification to the whole neighborhood, and I don't know what the protocol is. I mean, do we give notification when we do it? You know, if it's necessary, that's fine, but they want, they thought it was just like, came that day and down the tree came, and that was it.
We
And then I had a, yeah, why don't we address that first?
Yeah, we never had anything where we notify the whole neighborhood. I have had a conversation with the arborist, and maybe next year we will have, for people that are interested in trees, we will have some sort of notice and some sort of meeting where he can answer questions about particular trees to anybody, not just the people whose house they're in front of. And also we can make the pitch for replanting, or some people are reluctant to have trees replanted. And so we're looking at possibly revamping how we handle public information on trees connected with road jobs in the future.
I know the
That would be a good idea.
Warren Ave residents were rather upset. That's one of the biggest ones in this program. That Warren Ave and I think it was Kingston that were kind of vocal about the lack of input. Not that they normally ever have input, but they were rather upset this time.
But what seems to happen is, you know, if they don't get informed and they don't know about, they haven't come to a council meeting or been to this virtual meeting, they don't even know. And the next thing you know, they see the road repair equipment there and the tree coming. And they feel kind of blindsided. And additionally, the same subject about our road repair, where the engineer has now determined that their sidewalks are going to need to be replaced. And I had a resident share some concerns. He says he agreed that portion of the sidewalk did need to be replaced, but some of it he disputed. And he says, you know, what could I do? How could I handle that? You know, what's your determining factor, you know, to say that this needs to be replaced? And it seemed a common sense, logical question that I think we at least, I want to at least clarify for myself that I can share that.
Yeah, well, the letter we send out to anybody who's having sidewalk replaced encourages them to talk to the engineer, gives them the opportunity to come to a public hearing before the council, and it also lists the criteria, which are basically the ADA criteria for sidewalks in terms of how much of an uplift, how much of a separation, you know, a horizontal or vertical separation, and information's all there for them in the letter they get. They have the engineer's phone number, and they're given the opportunity to come to a council meeting to object at that time. Obviously, if they wait until after the work starts, there's going to be less opportunity to revisit the situation and decide, you know, whether there is some other compromise.
And I understand. Yes.
Councilman Sciarra makes a really good point. We notify them when we're gonna rip up their sidewalks. We notify them when we're gonna put a tree in front of their house, but we don't notify them when we're taking the tree in front of their house down.
Yeah, that's what I mean, there have been some years we put the list of trees when it's coming down, but only if it's people that have where there's a sidewalk. We're talking about rectifying that, by doing, you know, a broader meeting on trees wherever we're doing the road program to talk about what's coming down, what the criteria are, what are the plans for replanting, and have that kind of forum for anybody that's interested in the trees. And so, yes, I think we can do a better job, and we're planning on that for the future.
So just want to get clarification back on the sidewalk issue. They're getting notification prior to any of this work being done, and it's
Absolutely.
outlined for them. And if they have a dispute, they can do this at a council meeting like we're having tonight.
Yeah, or without coming to a council meeting, calling the engineer and having it reviewed with them and explained to them.
Well, the one resident did speak to the engineer, and it was a hairline fracture on a portion of the sidewalk where he had a dispute on. He says this is a hairline. It's not coming up from so that's what he was disputing. Now I did not see it, so I can't, you know, tell you I've laid eyes on it and tell you myself what it looked like. But I had a very long conversation, and that was his concern. So I just
His
want to
conversation with the engineer was right before the work started, or was it back last March when we sent out the letters?
I actually don't know that answer. It sounded like it might have been recently, but I don't know for sure.
Yeah, I mean, that's just so if they're going out there right when the work is starting, it's going to be hard to change directions. But if the residents would respond when we communicate with them earlier in the process, it's easy. We have time to for reconsideration. And if that didn't happen, I don't say we've never changed direction, but it's harder to if the contractor's already on site and starting to break up the sidewalk.
Okay. Thank you, Council President. That's all I have. Joe. Microphone.
Thank you. I clicked it. It just didn't go green. All right. So this is a follow-up to the question. It's 41 Mary Street. I had sent that in to the department. Go check that out because it is has a tree, the large branch on top, and it took out the whole porch. Did we send anybody there?
Yeah, the construction. I sent you an email, but you're coming from work, whatever. You probably didn't get it because it was this afternoon. The construction official had been out there, determined that there was nothing. There were no structural problems with that. The columns were more cosmetic, and so the house was not in an unsafe condition.
Thank you. The tree at the dead end of Cedar, you might have sent that email as well.
Yep, I'll give you a quick report. There were wires. The wires that were down were telephone and cable. The PSE&G wire was low, but it was 8 or 9 feet up. The area was barricaded off with tape, and the utilities were notified.
All right. Well, we're knocking these out. I know we both received an email from a resident on Mazer. I know that we reported that strip line got put down on Chilton and Mazer. Can we confirm that it was put down? Because he's saying it wasn't.
Excuse me? What was the question?
The email from Frank on Mazer Place, the sound line.
Yeah, I don't think it was put down, and I referred it to the police to get us to revisit the recommendation that was already done, and I haven't heard back from them, but we will address that.
All right, because just to refresh your memory, you had stated at one of our meetings it was done already. So I thanked you, and then he's reporting it wasn't done. So
You can't unthank him.
I'm not going to unthank him. I'm just asking.
Yeah, I mean, I want to make sure that we know what we were supposed to do, so we do it again. I don't want to work off my memory because it's faulty at times.
Understood. And then the same email that we both received about FiOS, did you have an opportunity to send that to the board?
The email on what?
FiOS?
Oh, on FiOS. Yeah, I've had a conversation. Basically what I told him his best bet is to call the Board of Public Utilities himself. I had an initial conversation with the borough attorney today, see if we can figure out if there's something different or better that we can do to advocate for not only that resident, but another resident across town who basically has the exact same issue.
Right. All right, so basically we inform them to call the Board of Public Utilities?
Yes, which I already did, and we will look at what we can do as a municipality to support that.
Right. And then the last one, thank you very much, Eric. So I thanked him again there, Mayor. I wasn't going to take it back. All right, so the last one is, I have to say, I have been the biggest critic of the county. If anyone has the opportunity with the soccer field, I was the cheerleader about being against it. You have to go down to the area 2 and check out the fencing that was put up. They have a park path that goes from the initial playground area. It goes all the way back to the dog park, and then it goes all the way back to the Boys and Girls Club. That area looks amazing. I I can't compliment them enough for the great work they've done. I know that they did take some of the property that we thought was our 8-acre woods, or I don't know if it was Dr. Boswell or Michael who had said that really we took 11 acres and now it's back down to 8 acres, but it really looks good down there. They put up wood fencing, like corral fencing around the parking lot. They really did a really great job. So if you have the opportunity, please check that out.
Took away a playground set that the Rotary put in, though.
That's area 1. I'm talking about area 2. Area 2 is the one off Diamond Bridge. It's right where we have our speed sign. You make it right in there.
The impervious one, yes.
That looks really good. That is all I have, Council President.
You got it. Well, I have no new business, so we'll turn to the administrative agenda presented by Mayor Goldberg.
Thank you, Council President. I'm sure you all remember, I announced at the last meeting that Chief McAuliffe was retiring. And in order to make a smooth transition tonight, I'm naming Captain James Nepper as the person I intend to promote to Chief of Police as soon as Rich comes off the books effective October 1st. Also, Lieutenant Brian Vanderhook will be named the Coordinator of Emergency Management. I have tremendous faith in these two, and I'm sure we will have a seamless transition in the police department and emergency management. I'm also sure you're aware the municipal building is closed. My hope is that early next week we will open on an appointment-only basis. We have some employees working from home in order to safeguard everybody's health. That being said, each physical office is in fact staffed, so we just ask for your patience of calling and leaving a message. More to follow as we develop a plan to reopen. Also, Councilman Skier, I'm sure, will report to you that the library plans to open on Monday. He will give you the hours because he wrote them down and I didn't, so I'm sure we'll hear from that. I am concerned that we've seen a slight uptick in the COVID cases. Although the uptick appears to be relatively minimal, the uptick causes concern. So I remind you to please remember to wear a mask, practice social distancing from one another, and wash hands. We are planning our 9/11 remembrance for Friday, September 11th at 6:30. We're asking that if you plan to attend, you wear a mask and remain socially distanced from one another. While we recognize we're in the middle of a pandemic, we don't think we can let this day go by without recognizing what happened on that day. There will be a ribbon cutting this Saturday, August 15th at 10 a.m. at the gateway to the Mississippi River. And I'm sure Councilwoman Leosa will give you more details when it comes to her committee reports. I do have a proclamation to read tonight. It's a mayor and council proclamation for the borough of Hawthorne. Whereas August 26, 2020 will mark the 100th anniversary of the ratification of the 19th Amendment, which secured women's constitutional rights to vote. And whereas prior to 1776, women had the right to vote in several of the colonies which would become the United States, but in 1807, every state constitution denied even limited suffrage. Whereas in the mid-1800s, there was a call for equality between the sexes, with pro-suffrage organizations led by Susan B. Anthony and Elizabeth Cady Stanton called for a new constitutional amendment that would guarantee women the right to vote. And whereas the 19th Amendment was introduced to Congress in 1878, was rejected the next year, and in 1890, suffrage organizations led by Lucy Burns and Alice Paul helped to move the 19th Amendment forward. Whereas World War I helped to shift public perception of women's suffrage, as women supported the war effort and staged marches, demonstrations, and hunger strikes. And whereas in 1918, President Wilson announced his support of the suffrage amendment, which passed in 1919 and was adopted in 1920. Now therefore be it proclaimed that the Mayor and Council of the proud borough of Hawthorne do hereby observe August 26, 2020 as the 100th anniversary of the ratification of the 19th Amendment and honors the historic suffrage slogan, "Forward through darkness, forward into the light," that's signed by me and the rest of the council. At this point, I call upon Mike Pasquale for his report.
Thank you, Mayor. It's timely that you would introduce the proclamation. 100 years ago, women in this country were denied the right to vote. Yesterday, a woman of color and of Asian heritage was placed on a ballot for vice presidential nomination. So we've come a long way, but God, it's slow work. I want to report on a couple of legal matters. I was going to report on Brookside Avenue, but Councilman Lane preempted that with a question. On the affordable housing front, for those who don't know, the planning board did approve the application of 204 Wagra Road. At its last meeting was a special meeting. I do want to take a moment to congratulate, by the way, the board on conducting a virtual hearing. It was really a challenge because there were plans to be introduced and shown. There was switching off from presenter to presenter. It was seamlessly done. Compliments to Jan Patmos, to Lori Fernandez, to Jim D'Elia, who filled in with the board. They all did an exceptional job, and that's done. The next step is basically to move towards building permits. So we do expect to see a shovel hitting the ground at the 204 Wagra site as early as the end of this year. There are a number of other matters that are still being tied up as loose ends. And by the way, Christine Caffone, our special master, appeared at that meeting. Shortly after that meeting, she and her whole family were stricken with COVID, very ill, but all have recovered. This stuff is very serious. The Fair Share Housing Center agreement calls for us to undertake a windshield survey of substandard housing. Gene DeAugustinis and the mayor and I spoke on that issue today to get that moving. Lori and I spoke earlier in the week about getting going with some of the things we need to do on our end to make sure we have affordability controls in place. So everything is working towards one goal, and that is to finalize and satisfy all the requirements of our settlement agreements. Other than that, Mayor, I report progress, and I wish everybody continued good health as we go forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Michael. I now call on Michael Kelly for his report.
Hi, good evening. It's nice to see everybody. Hope everybody's doing well. Just want to report on a few items. For the Goffle Hill Water Storage Tank LSRP services, we've submitted documents to administration for signature. Once we get those back, we'll submit the remedial investigation report to the state. For the 2019 DOT municipal aid application, that's Arlington Ave Phase 2. Final quantities have been accepted by the contractor. Once we get their maintenance bond, we'll submit final closeout documents for that job. For the 2019 road improvement program, that project's been completed. I'm happy to report that's been completed under budget, and I believe you have a change order on tonight's meeting's agenda for the approval of the change order. The borough-funded portion of the project was a reduction in the contract amount in the amount of about $98,000. The CDBG portion was over by about $3,000, and then the residential assessment was under by about $7,500. So we're happy to report that that job was completed under budget. For the 2020 road improvement program, they expect to complete the work on Kingston Avenue this week. I do want to bring up an issue. We had an issue at 31 Kingston Street today. It's my understanding that the contractor, we're working with the contractor, the property owner administration to get that resolved. That had to do with the installation of a handicap ramp and then marrying it in the sidewalk. And we also had a conflict with the roof leader. So all that's being resolved. We expect that to be resolved in the next day or so. And then Kingston Avenue will be wrapped up. And then they'll begin work on Oak Place, Post Avenue, and Sylvester Avenue. And then for the 2020 DOT municipal aid application project, which is Parmalee Ave, the contractor is going to get another concrete crew in there to complete the concrete work in the area of the high school. That work will be completed before school begins, and it will be paved in the fall. And we'll have to coordinate that with the police department and the schools for the paving of that area. The Hawthorne Library lighting improvements, I understand that they're reviewing grant applications and that they're going to submit for a grant application for that project. And the DPW garage trench drain, we've received 3 proposals for that project. The low proposal was provided by Marini Brothers in the amount of $9,460. Once that's authorized, we will get them going on that. And Mayor, that's all I have to report.
Thank you, Michael. Now from his bunker somewhere in western New Jersey, I call upon Eric Maurer for his report.
Thank you, Mayor. The first thing, we're working with the Shade Tree Commission and the arborists to finalize the tree planting RFP, which will go out hopefully by the end of this week. The third quarter taxes have been posted, those received by the end of the grace period, despite some staffing challenges due to people being out, but that still happened. Our second floor renovations will begin this coming Monday, and hopefully that we'll be able to get that done in roughly the same time frame as we're returning to a more full opening of the building. And then I want to spend the rest of the time on the report talking about the body cameras for the police department. I know there's questions in recent council meetings, and so I've spent some time with the police chief to go over what has happened and what's going to happen. When grants for the purchase of body cameras were announced several years ago, the police department conducted trials of 3 different brands, WatchGuard, L3, and D-View, for placing an order for cameras with D-View in 2016. 15,500 of the 28,000 plus cost was paid by the grant. Before the cameras could be put into use as body cameras, first the New Jersey Attorney General had to develop guidelines, which then each county prosecutor had the opportunity to adapt, with the option of either making them more stringent but not less stringent than what the Attorney General had done. After prosecutor was done guidelines, each municipality, including Hawthorne, had to write its own policies and procedures in conformance with the prosecutor's guidelines, then submit them to the prosecutor for approval. By the time this multi-step process had concluded, before the HPD could put the cameras into use, D-View essentially ceased operation, eliminating the support we needed for implementation. Eventually, another company called Axon acquired D-View and its assets. The police department has been in contact with Axon about making our system operational, which may involve some upgrade of equipment. Most departments in this area opted for car cameras rather than body cameras. Hawthorne decided on the body cameras for better coverage of events and incidents, which would be better in the long run, but unfortunately meant the weight on the guidelines from the Attorney General and County Prosecutor. It also means that there are a few nearby departments to compare to as we were preparing to go into operation and move forward. We're hoping that after review of current equipment by Axon and determination of what might need to be upgraded, we'll have new equipment delivered if needed and operational in 3 to 6 months. It is unknown at this time what, if any, additional costs may be incurred. We're hoping it will be none. I know that Chief McAuliffe had conversations scheduled for as recently as today for furthering that process. I don't have a report on how those conversations went. Once we're in operation, the guidelines from the state require that video footage shall be maintained for a minimum of 90 days, but there's longer periods when there's an arrest, criminal prosecution, use of force, or internal affairs complaint, with those retention periods then determined by the situation. And that concludes my report.
Thank you, Eric. Council President will be happy to answer any questions.
Does anyone have any questions for the administration?
Yes, I do.
John, we'll start with you since your box is lit up.
Thank you. Mike, How is the problem at the DPW garage going to be resolved as far as the water, the flooding in the water?
Is that associated with
I can
the,
answer that, John. Boswell got us 3 quotes on it, and we were issuing a PO to the lowest to quote. Given all that's happened in the past couple weeks in finance, I'm not sure whether it actually got entered and issued, but it is happening. And Boswell's completed their end other than inspecting the work once it happens.
That's fine, but that's not the question that I asked.
What's
How
the
is it going to be resolved?
a trench drain is going to be installed, and it's my understanding that it'll be installed in front of the garage door.
Okay, like an underground, are you going to have a seepage pit at all?
I don't know the details. I don't know if it's going to be discharged to a wooded area or if it's going to go to a pit. The amount was about $9,000, so that sounds like it's just for the trench drain. I don't believe there'd be a pit, or maybe it's being tied into the drainage system. But I don't know the details of it.
Okay, my recollection may be that it's tied into the drainage system where we're taking the water off the roof, but I don't want to say that for certain. We can look into that.
Okay, could you find out then, Michael, and let me know?
Sure, I'll find out. I'll let you know.
Thank you. That's all I have, Mr. President.
John, that was at the man door at the end of the building?
Yes.
Okay. Any other questions?
Yes.
Oh, Joe?
So let me start with a compliment. I want to thank Eric for staying on top of the residents of 45 Outlook. I was informed today that all the garbage at the curb, including the furniture, I don't know if anyone else received emails from the resident across the street, but I want to say for years, this tenant that has not kept a very tidy location at 45 Outlook. And I know the last 3 days, Eric and I have been receiving a number of emails, and I want to just thank him for staying on top of it. So that Chief ex-Captain Vandervelde received a number of emails. And of course, I do want to thank Ellen Brogno for also emailing the resident and staying on top of it as well. So thank you very much, Eric. Next, I have to say that I am very concerned about our numbers with COVID right now, Mayor. I saw in your last letter that we're up to 5 positive cases ongoing in the borough. I do want to ask a clear question. I know I made light of the situation earlier in the council meeting, but I'd like to know who is in charge of enforcement for the COVID-19 rules.
We subcontract out to the Patterson Board of Health, and they, along with our borough nurse, are in charge of tracking and enforcement.
All right, so that's Monday through Friday, 9 to 5?
Pretty much.
All right. So I just want to state for the record that I have concerns in the way for which we are not enforcing the COVID rules that are issued by the governor. Second, I'd like to ask on the same COVID rules, when will we start having in-person meetings? I do know that there are let's just say, meetings taking place in person, and I'm just curious when we're going to start having meetings in person. I have antibodies. I have nothing to worry about. It's everybody else and the meetings that are taking place and what's going on around town that I feel that is driving up these numbers, and I don't feel comfortable with our current enforcement or lack thereof enforcement of the rules.
Joe, our plan is September to have in-person council meetings for us. Once the new AV equipment was installed, and we could have the public still call in that aspect, where we could spread out in the pews or up at the dais and the pews. But until that equipment is in, we can't really have that ability. that was the goal,
So-
but then obviously before we had 2 employees come down with it, that kind of put a hole in that plan.
Currently, you can have up to 100 people at church. It says that there is no limitations for any political events. This would be a political event.
This is not a political
No, this
event.
is a business.
This is a
business.
meeting. We are
This is
subject to the
government.
25-person limitation for an indoor meeting, and there are other concerns which I've expressed with Eric and with the mayor about whether or not you can conduct meetings and exclude the public from those meetings, either totally or selectively. There's a lot to still be worked out on this, Joe.
I apologize. I'm not going to reply because I really feel I have nothing but sarcasm, but I think I've made my point.
About the meetings,
Right, I could have 200 people I apologize, 75 to 100 people at an event, but we can't have an in-person council person meeting.
we have indoor council meetings. Outdoor rules are very different, and the rules with regard to what you're speaking about, Joe, are not being violated, but you will always disagree. I understand, and I'll leave it at that.
Okay. Any other questions? Seeing none, can I have a motion to record the administrative agenda?
So moved.
So moved. Motion by Sierra, second by Bennett. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion
Aye.
carries. Introduction of ordinances. We have ordinance number 2258-20. Now, this one's a little bit near and dear to my heart. Now, this is an ordinance that's going to hopefully be phase 1 of a multiple phase project to kind of address a lot of stuff that's going on over around the Utter Ave area. I'm going to read it, and then I'm going to have the chairman of the ordinance committee go into depth a little bit. We've got some people that are on our chat line that it's going to kind of tie in with but this is phase 1 to help get the trucks off the streets, and then following up with that, we're working on the rest of the issues. So, ordinance number 2258-20, an ordinance to further amend and supplement Chapter 505 of the Code of the Borough of Hawthorne, Vehicles and Truck Traffic, Section 505-16B, trucks over certain weight limits excluded, no through trucking, and sections 505-65, Schedule 12, as to add thereto additional locations. Be resolved that this ordinance is now past the first reading, and said ordinance be further considered for final passage at a meeting of the governing body at the Municipal Building, 445 Lafayette Avenue, at a virtual meeting on September 2nd, 2020, at said time and place, and all persons interested will be given an opportunity to be heard concerning the same. The clerk is hereby authorized and directed to publish the said ordinance in the record once, at least 1 week prior to said hearing, with notice of its introduction, time and place, when and where said ordinance will be considered for final passage. Can I have a motion?
So moved.
Motion by Lane, second by Bennett. And for those following along at home, what this ordinance does is it prohibits the truck traffic that's coming off 208 onto Utter Ave from going down a lot of the numbered streets. And it also prohibits the truck traffic from Lincoln Ave coming down Parker, and also the trucks coming off of 208 from coming down those numbered streets and coming out Parker to Lincoln Ave. There's a lot of trucks that go down those numbered streets, get stuck. They've hit a number of cars. Obviously, you have a delivery truck that might be coming to drop something off. That's one thing. But these are the habitual 18-wheeler offenders that are coming to one of the big 3 that are on Utter Ave. Now, we can't restrict traffic on all of the streets because there are businesses on 5th, 6th, 7th, and even on the other side of Van Winkle, we have a number of businesses on the other side of Van Winkle on 7th and 8th and even Upper 9th. But if anyone that were to read it, there's a number of restrictions of the number of streets. So John, do you want to give a little bit more about our strategy, how we want to approach this, as well as our parking issues, and obviously ties also in with the garbage issues?
Yes, thank you, Mr. President. First of all, I'd like to thank the Ordinance Committee, Sergeant Geyer of the Police Department, our attorney, Michael Pasquale, for putting this ordinance together. This was not an easy task for all of us, and I think we've laid it out so that basically it's a starting point. I believe that there may be changes to this ordinance in the future, depending on the way the trucks enter, leave our community, but at least it's a start. On 7th Avenue, the traffic is from, the truck will be from Utter Avenue to Horton. I'm sorry, there'll be no truck traffic from Utter to Horton on 8th, same way on 9th. It'll be the same way on 10th. It'll be from Utter to Parker, and on 11th, it'll be from Utter to Parker. In conjunction with this, one of the items that we did look at, and I thank the mayor, the administrator.
John, you missed two. From Parker, from Utter to Genevieve on 10th, and Utter to Florence on 11th.
That's correct, Frank. Those are the two.
Thank you for that. I missed it on my sheet. I'd also like to thank the mayor and the administrator and the police department for having a meeting with the businesses in the area to start the dialogue with regard to having discussions regarding the car parking, employee parking on our streets. We all agree that it is not fair for our residents to have these vehicles parked in front of their homes during the day, during the night, when our residents are looking to have guests at their home. So that's going to be another part of either this ordinance or a different ordinance, or negotiations between the committee, the mayor, and some of the business owners with regard to the use of some of the businesses' properties to rent, especially Premio, to rent some of their properties so that we can get a lot of the employee parking off the streets and onto off-street parking. The other question that I'd like to ask, and I do feel that this ordinance will pass, and I'd like to make a suggestion to, I guess it's to the mayor. If this passes tonight, Mr. Mayor, I would like to ask if you or the administration can get together with the police department to see exactly what signs would be needed so that we could start focusing on the signs that we have to put up, because this way, if we start working in conjunction with getting the signs and it passing the ordinance and waiting for the Gestapo period, at the end of that period, then we might be able to put the signs up instead of ordering them at the end, and it's just delaying the trucks that they can't go down those streets. So I'd like to ask that if you could consider something like that to pass this tonight, because if it passes tonight, I think definitely will pass the second reading.
John, I just want to interrupt you 1 second. The backup that the entire council has, Mike, they don't have the right backup. They have your first draft.
Yeah.
Yeah, the backup that they have does not have the northbound restrictions.
Okay, that would be the backup. The title that is on the agenda is the correct title. so you can act on it, but there's no question that the ordinance itself, which is the one that's posted on our website and in our municipal building, is the correct ordinance with the northerly restrictions. So we are clear that that's what we're introducing. And
That's why you wrote it off. That's why you
yeah. Yeah, so Frank, I didn't realize that either.
Neither did I, so I pointed out.
Okay, well, that's what happens when you have about 6 drafts where I had
Should have got it right the first time.
I had norths and souths and easts and wests, and it's when I have to use a compass to draft an ordinance, it doesn't come out right the first time. But we got there. All right, I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, John, I just wanted to put that out there because it wasn't.
No, I appreciate it.
Instruction anyway, so.
Thank you. Mayor, you're
And
on.
I'm sure I see Eric writing, so we'll take John's suggestion to heart.
Thank
That's
you
what
very
we're
much. I
doing.
appreciate. Thank you. But like I said, this is just. I think this is just the beginning. I think there'll be either additional ordinances or amended ordinance to this for other items that we may have missed that we have to incorporate, and we won't know that until we get into the policing of it on the streets with the trucks and seeing where we are. So I think that concludes my report to the full council and the public, Mr. President.
Okay, any other questions or comments regarding the ordinance?
Council President, I just want to state too for the record, first I want to compliment the ordinance committee on the first step in the process. You can't be better. Being a good neighbor is the best answer here, but sometimes you have to impose rules to encourage people to be good neighbors. Just so we're clear, this is a prevention of through trucking. It is not a prevention of all trucking on a street. So anybody who lives on this street who's having furniture delivered, garbage trucks can go up and down the street as long as there's a destination on the street. The thing we want to discourage is people cutting through and using our streets to get from one place to another on these streets that were never built for this kind of trucking. So that's the goal here. And again, compliments to all of you for putting this together.
And obviously enforcement's gonna go a long way with this. The truckers are gonna need to be reminded at their point of destinations that there's new rules in effect. And our police department's gonna have to kind of go hand in hand with the enforcement of this as well. So, with that said, roll call.
Bennett,
Yes.
sorry, let me just move this to everyone. There we go. Thank you. Leosa.
We motioned. I don't think we had a motion.
Yeah, we had a motion.
Yeah, I have Lane, motion by Lane, second by
We had to
Bennett.
discuss it.
Leosa?
Leosa, okay. Lane,
Yes.
Mealy,
Yes.
Skiara, excuse me,
Yes.
Woteki,
Yes.
Matthews.
Oh, certainly.
Thank you, motion carries.
Okay, resolutions. We have the consent agenda R94-20 through R96-20. R94-20 is refund of tax overpayments. R95-20 is the final change order for the 2019 road program. R96-20 is emergency award for touchless faucets and flush valves in borough buildings. Have a motion.
So moved.
Motion by Mealy. Second by Mealy. Motion
Lane,
by Mealy, second by Lane. Any discussion? Obviously, the touchless faucets and flush valves is being funded by our COVID relief application, and that comes in handy. They're also replacing some toilets, which I was surprised to see, which, okay.
Just the valves.
No, there's some toilets in there, Eric.
Yeah, which leads to my question, where it says on the bottom of the contract, or I guess the proposal, it says that in areas that there will be no match. is there money awarded for repair? So in the last page of the proposal, it says if the faucet doesn't completely match, there's going to be stains or
So when you take one thing off, you could have a smaller valve or than the first one, so you could have some calcium buildup and things like that, where the plumber's not going to sit there and.
Oh, he's not. It's a right. What's the plan for replacement or tiles or what have you that needs to be fixed or done at those locations?
We don't have a particular plan now. To me, the major key and what the grant will pay for is replacement of the installation of what's necessary to get the touchless faucets and valves in place.
For example, the men's room on the first floor of the municipal building, the stand for the sink had to have been installed, I guess, when John Lane was a kid. So.
No, they didn't make them back then.
So my point is why wouldn't we just invest in a little bit more money and do it all the right way the first time? Because that it's fallen apart now. And not that I'm saying you're old, Councilman Lane. I'm just saying that it needs assistance. So why not do it right the first time? And I wasn't going to go pick on you.
The issue is we're trying to get as much as we can get done with the grant without putting ourselves in a bid situation, and yeah, we could either scale back what we're doing and spend our own money and get fewer faucets. But right now, if we have the grant and we want to improve the health and safety part of this, we just need to get it done. But we can take a look at that.
We are also doing this on an emergent basis. We're not doing this on a, we want to get this done immediately. The safety of the people who come and either work in our building or visit our building is at stake here. So we need to do this quickly, and we do have grant money to pay for this. So down the road, we may make different changes, but for now, this is the recommended course to get this done as quickly as possible.
Wouldn't this be a separate project though? If you're talking about tile, it could be totally unrelated to, so it could be on a separate project completely.
Yeah, we can certainly take a look at that. If we're looking at tile,
it explains it completely on the last page of the bid that he's not going to be responsible for where toilet doesn't match up with toilet. If it doesn't match, he's going to install what we're asking him to install. But if there's
it's also boilerplate information to cover his
he came and looked
it's
at
on every contract.
He looked at all of the locations, and our employee who went with them was also a plumber. I think we reviewed the stuff with them. From what the report I got, they didn't see things that this was going to be, they were leaving things that were going to be undone.
I'm not questioning the ability of the plumber. I've had him do many things at my house, and the guy's a great guy. I'm just saying that if we could throw a couple extra bucks just to make sure that if we're going to not have, match up, if it's going to look not aesthetically pleasing, and we could add a little bit money, just like even the men's room and the ladies' room of the municipal building. If it doesn't match up in the pump houses, I get it, but you understand what I'm trying to say, Michael?
I do. The problem you're going to run into, Joe, is that you're starting to slide out of the area of emergency spending to combat COVID and into the aesthetics of the project, in which case we're going to take a big step back and start bidding the project and mixing our money with grant monies. I really think we need to get this done the right way. I am sure if there is going to be a situation where it's impractical, we'll get a change order to replace the entire unit versus just the faucet or the flush valve or whatever, which is, again, we are replacing some toilets where you can't really do otherwise. So that may be some change orders which will still find their way under this grant. But I don't think we have the luxury of taking the step back you're looking for.
Okay, all right.
We'll be on top of it. Any other questions on the resolutions? Roll call.
Okay, Woteki,
Yes.
Skiara,
Yes.
Mealy,
Yes.
Lane,
Yes.
Leosa,
Yes.
Bennett,
Bruce.
Bruce Bennett,
Yes.
thank you, and Matthews.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Yes. Yes.
Thank you.
Reports of special council committees. Joe, we'll start your way.
Our Shade Tree Commission meeting was extremely light. Really have nothing to add. I know that our next meeting is going to be very, very intense due to all the trees that we lost at the last storm. We did discuss one matter that we're going to move forward I don't want to discuss it until we have the full Shade Tree Commission. I know that Drea was away, and I want to get her input before we discuss it. But it is something that I would like to discuss with administration before I just blurt it out at a council meeting. Other than that, nothing more to report.
Mike.
Thank you, Council President. On the school board, today Governor Murphy signed an executive order clearing public schools, public and non-public, pre-K to 12, and college and universities can be for in-person instruction. Can fully resume as long as they social distance and other protective and protections are strictly adhered to. And also, any students who choose to continue remote learning will be accommodated. School boards, I know what they're doing. They're giving out all their Chromebooks. Right now, they're asking all the students to come and get them. This was part of their referendum that they were able to secure this, and that's being done this week. Their next meeting is August 18th. On the library, the mayor did hijack a little bit of my thunder here. The library is scheduled to reopen. Thank you, Mayor. On Monday the 17th, with limited hours. Hours are from Monday to Thursday, 11 to 7 p.m., and on Friday, 11 to 5:30. And this concludes my reports. Thank you.
Rena.
Okay, a couple of announcements. As you know, this Saturday we're having the grand opening of the Gateway. We will be doing a ribbon cutting of the new trail that goes to the river between the two rain gardens, and we'll be unveiling the Gateway to the Passaic River trail sign that we put together. Second of all, good news, we received 3 entries to What I Love About Hawthorne. They are posted on the Hawthorne Environmental Green Team Facebook page, so please go and like and love the one that you like the best. We'll be announcing the winner. All the voting should be done by Friday. So we're really excited that we got 3 entries. So just go and vote on which one you like the best. I think they're all great, so it's going to be difficult, but we'll have a winner. Thank you.
Dominic.
On public safety, all our crossing signs and flashing lights are out, except for the movies, because it's construction there and movies is closed. That's not out. I know I talked about municipal alliance. Our budget was cut. We had a meeting with the mayor and Joanne and the committee, and decisions have to be made what we're going to sponsor next year, because they did cut our budget in half. We'll be talking about later on, probably. That's all I have to report.
Bruce.
Nothing to report at the time, Council President.
Okay. John.
Thank you. The rabies clinic will be held on August 25th from 6 to 8 p.m. at the ambulance building. Masks will be required. Social distancing will also be required. There'll be room in the parking lot if the line gets long. So just keep that in mind, but the rabies will be 25th.
Okay. And for me, like Mike alluded to, the planning board met regarding 204 WAG. The application was heard and presented fully. They initially tried to insert mezzanines onto the third floor, but that would have required height variances, so they removed them from the application. That was kind of a late inning insert. The building height was questioned as far as whether it conforms or whether it exceeds what was in our ordinance. The height still violates the UCC definitions of height and volume. That didn't seem to make a difference. They kept saying that it was on their original submitted plans that we saw, and I know we may have looked at 8.5 by 11s. They held fast to it was in the documents that we all reviewed, so if we didn't approve it, it was a breach of contract. Yet the gazebo that was on there that was kind of ridiculous from day one, they're choosing to remove and breach their contract, but that's okay, because they don't want drunk customers from the front porch going over to the gazebo and drinking there. So needless to say, the application was approved, but I voted no, because the architect that's representing us on the platform there knows the building codes, but it still didn't matter. Onto the chamber. The annual fishing derby, which was scheduled for September 12th, unfortunately, out of caution for the kids, we're going to cancel it this year. Kind of near and dear to me because I'm the chairman of the fishing derby and I look forward to that event. And I really like seeing the kids and the joy on their face when they come running up with a fish for me to measure and weigh. But with everything that's going on now, I kind of hope that everything would be over by now. But that's the last thing we want to do is have something where they could potentially get it. And so just for anybody watching at home, fishing derby will resume next year, not this year. And that's all I had as far as my committee reports. Correspondence. We have C1. We have a new firefighter application for Matthew Cook to Rescue 5. Have a motion to approve that.
So moved.
Motion by Neely,
Second.
second by Sierra. Any discussion? Roll call.
Bennett,
Yes.
thank you. Leosa,
Yes.
Lane,
Yes.
yes.
You're a little delayed.
I got you, thank you. Lane,
Abstain.
thank you. Mealy,
Yes.
Skiara,
Yes.
Woteki,
Abstain.
Matthews.
Yes.
Thank you, motion carries.
Bills. We have a motion to approve the bills and forward them to the treasurer for payment.
So moved. Motion.
Motion by Mealy, second by Sierra. Any discussion? Rita. And this includes the ones that Eric added today.
Right.
Yes. Right. Just a quick question, Eric. The East Coast Power and Gas invoice, is this the final invoice since they are no longer in operations? Do you know? You're on
Microphone, Eric.
mute.
I believe it's the final one. There may be some of the individual counts that for some reason there wasn't yet a final reading on or something, but we should be at the end of it.
Okay. Because I know last month in July, there weren't any bills for them, I don't believe. So it was just one bill this month. Okay,
And so
we'll just keep looking for it.
it's just the straggler. And I can't say for sure there isn't another straggler or two, but
Correct.
we're at the end.
Okay, great, thanks. That's it that I have, Council President.
Any other questions? Roll call.
Wadecki.
Staying on the fire department, yes on all of.
Thank you. Skiara.
Yes on all.
Mealy.
Yes on all of them.
Lane.
Staying on the fire department and the ambulance corps, yes on all others.
Thank you. Leosa.
Yes for everything, abstaining for East Coast Power and Gas, please.
Thank you. Bennett.
Yes.
Thank you. And Matthews.
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you. Motion carries.
There was no PSE&G bills, Dom. I saw your look. I'll vote next month.
I thought you were going to vote that.
Yeah. Okay, public comment. I'll now open the meeting to the public. If anyone desires to be heard, please call in now at 312-757-3121, access code 472-199-829, or email to lfernandez@hawthornenj.org, or if you're online with us, you can give us a chat, and we'll go in order to the ones that are already sent into the chat first.
Thank you.
I think I saw there's a question about movie nights.
Council President, if I can answer that, I privately answered the questioner, but the question was basically, is the band shell planning any movie nights this summer? As of right now, we do not have any scheduled movies. I must be honest, the latest uptick in virus spread we had gave everybody a little bit of pause. We are still looking at the possibility of a late summer movie, and quite honestly, we're thinking there's not going to be a whole lot going on in the world in September, so we may even consider something in September. It's not off the table, but it's not currently scheduled.
Okay. Next up would be Monica. Eric, I'll give you this question. Monica wanted to know, was the library considered for touchless plumbing improvements in the bid that was put out? Microphone. I'm going to give you a sticky note to put on your computer next week.
Yes. The library is one of the priority buildings that we, along with the municipal building, that we identified. So yes, they're part of it.
So there's your answer, Monica. Yes to that, and you will be getting improvements at the library. Craig, that leaves us you. Floor is yours.
No.
Thank you, Council President. Thanks to everyone. Craig Cayetano, 59 Pasadena Place.
Thank you, Craig.
A couple of them. I wanted to first say thank you to Eric for updating us on body cams and the information behind that. Also, I do appreciate that putting out a prompt Nixle about the debris pickup. And along lines of Nixle, we can definitely use Nixle for more things and clarify things. So I think today was a little confusing with the Nixle for the police enforcing street sweeper restricted parking rule. It was kind of vague, and then you had to kind of hunt down the code. I'm hoping if we could put another one out that actually has the link to the actual code with the street, because it's not every street that it contains to, and I think some people are probably going to be scratching their heads, and I just wouldn't want people to get slammed with a ticket without at least having the opportunity to really put out at least 8 copies, even the streets that this would pertain to. I think that would be great for the residents. The other thing I kind of put out there was we had a lot of debris from the storm, so if anybody can check their local storm drain near their house or even a couple houses down just to see if it's clear and free of debris. A lot of the recycling bins were blown around too, so there might be bottles and cans there. So obviously we won't have any backup of flooding for another potential storm. I don't know if the street sweepers are always going to be able to clean that out, so just wanted to kind of put out there to everybody. Mayor, I'm glad to hear that you've announced our new chief, and I'm hoping at the swearing-in ceremony that the chief would come out in support of Black Lives Matter as well, and be open to publicly stating that.
and we can maybe discuss bringing the call to action back around with him after he's sworn in.
Well, Craig, I'm sorry. I can tell you he was at the march.
Awesome, great, good to hear. Good to hear. We'd still obviously, as his coming into office in that role, we would also love to hear it from him again, just to reiterate. I do appreciate that, though. One thing that I did want to bring up was the elections coming up. There's some chatter and conversation about ballot box. Right now, Passaic County only has 5 ballot boxes, which is sad. There's other counties that have way more ballot boxes than Passaic does. And they're located in Clifton, Ringwood, Wayne, Passaic, and at the administration building in Patterson. So I'm hoping Mayor, the administration, the council can reach out to the county clerk and say that, they support getting a ballot box installed in Hawthorne. I know there's a lot of concerns with people. There are some people that like to have more choices and ways of voting and casting their votes. So I'm hoping that Hawthorne can get involved with this and get this done in time for the general election.
I'm hoping we can vote in person, Craig, because quite frankly, when you saw what happened to Patterson, I have concerns with the total mail-in. I have no problem with absentee ballots because at least it's a double verification.
Of course, I agree with you too. I want to vote in person, and I'm probably going to vote in person like most of us, but having the option definitely seems more sense. And honestly, I think the ballot box is a little more secure than sometimes what some people are saying about mail. I mean, I trust them.
At least you know you're putting it in.
Yeah, and I think at least you're putting it in, exactly.
You are, yeah.
From there, and I hope that our town can get on board with this because I see a lot of other towns starting to embrace it. I'm hoping that we can get some resolution or at least word on that by the next meeting. And last thing,
we can't guarantee that one, Craig, because obviously that's the county election office. We can certainly contact them between now and then, but we can't guarantee an answer for that one.
I appreciate it, Council President. The last thing, there was some discussion about with the power outages. There was a huge amount of power outages, and people were concerned because it was the summer and heat. Is there any way we can explore putting up some sort of cooling tents, maybe working the volunteer ambulance corps, putting on that front lawn area, putting some cooling tents up, offering water, something like that? God forbid that we have another type of storm like this again, where people might be out of power, have a generator, allow them to charge their devices, things like that.
Normally, we use the library as a cooling center, but since they weren't open, that wasn't possible. In the past, we've used the ambulance corps building as well as the library. I had several conversations with my administrator because I was concerned about temperatures. I did speak to one resident who called asking about a cooling center. It's a concern, and we're going to have to find a way to deal with it, especially now.
Good. I appreciate that, Mayor. I'm glad you had the conversations, and hopefully we can find a way to have some option going forward. That's all I have tonight, guys. Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Kathy, the floor is yours, Kathy.
How are you? So this evening you talked about the ordinance number 2258-20, and you talked about that it will include the streets from 8th to 11th with no trucks going north from Utter to Van Winkle. So I'm curious why 6th and 7th wasn't included in those ordinance?
Because the other side of Van Winkle, you have commercial properties. You have to give the trucks an opportunity to get to. Trust me, I would like to have no trucks being able to get there, but if they're coming off of 208, you can't just trap them there. And we can't just send them all to Fifth Ave because then they're bottlenecked at Fifth and Utter. So that was the police department's recommendation on how to do that, and they studied it well beyond as long as I wanted to, and that was the recommendation that they gave us. That's where we're at today.
And did anyone take notice of the pictures of the tractor trailers turning from Florence onto 6th Avenue from 5th Avenue that I've sent in on multiple occasions since July till now?
Everything that you sent us, we gave to the police department, yes. We gave it to the traffic
And-
division.
So we will continue on 6th and 7th to have 18-wheelers. It doesn't matter that we have young children or elderly people that we have now that you haven't, and you're working on it, the employee parking issue, that they're parked at the stop sign on Florence and 6th every day, that you can't even pull out of 6th without almost getting clipped by a car. And now we have to deal with the tractor trailers on top of it because there's a business at the end of Van Winkle, on the other side of Van Winkle. So all the 18-wheelers will now go down 6th, 5th, and 7th. Is that correct?
Which they currently do already, yes.
They never did before all of this. Let's just be clear. So before this whole Primo and the 3 big that you're dealing with down there, and the issue we have on Utter, they never came down 6th in the 21 years that I own my home. Until the last 4 months.
Well, I don't know why they're coming now, whether the GPSs are directing them that way now for whatever reason. Okay. I don't know that answer.
So there will be no talks again because there's a moving company, I think it is. It's not even a big company that's on Van Winkle. Why do they not go down Van Winkle?
Because they're probably coming off of 208 is probably the reason I'm assuming. But that moving company is also in talks to potentially move as well.
Frank, we can continue to... I'm sorry, Kathy, go ahead.
No, and I wanted to know, when do we think we'll address the parking issue with the tenants that are at Primo who come here and they park for 8 to 13 hours a day, and in the evening around 1:30 when shift is over, they're all very loud and speaking in outside of our houses and waking up our children. I know. And today I actually had to call the police department and they issued a ticket on the car that's parked at the stop sign.
Well, the police department can issue tickets for any car that's parked 50 feet to an intersection on any day.
Understood, but I have to call every day.
Well, if you also heard me during my speech, I said that police in action needs to be stepped up as well. Enforcement is a key component to this. And that's something that we need to reinforce with our traffic division as well. And the situation that was alluded to as far as the parking, which would be phase 2, is there are properties that are becoming available that the mayor's had conversations with one of the big 3, without singling one of the businesses out, but you said the name, that we're trying to get them to purchase to put their people who work there on and get them off our streets. But that's something that's not definitive. It's something that's in negotiations with 2 private companies at this point. We're hoping it goes through because that'll solve a lot of issues. And as far as the garbage and the other things that have been forwarded to us, the PPE that's on the ground, that the mayor had discussions with Big 3 on Utter and said that that's unacceptable. And they all were told with their HR departments that their employees can't be doing this. And obviously, if we have to have cops out there giving tickets out every time, it's going to happen. And they all promised the mayor that they would do better and have conversations with all of their employees. I forget what was the term, Mayor. Every once in a while, they need to be reminded. Your mic's not on, Mayor.
Right, that's correct. Talking with the one person, he said, every once in a while we've got to remind them what's right and what's wrong, and that he urged us anytime it looks like it was getting out of control to call them. But and they have a person on Utter who cleans up Utter Avenue, so we may have to move them to some of the side streets as well. But we want the employees picking up that for themselves.
And we shouldn't have to, the town people shouldn't have to be doing this for private business. I agree with you 100%, don't get me wrong. We shouldn't, and you shouldn't have to call the police when private businesses people are acting up.
And did any of you ever walk on Utter by the train tracks and see all the empty little liquor bottles that are there? Speaking of cleaning up,
No, I have not.
someone should, because the whole area is just filled with empty liquor bottles. And I can only assume it's from people who spend a lot of time on that side of Utter. But
Okay. Well, is it on the railroad property or on the Market Basket side of the property?
it is on the market side, probably right before the railroad tracks. It's
All right,
right
so it's
before the railroad tracks.
So it's on a private property, not the railroad property.
Right.
Okay, now we can do something about, whereas the railroad property, we have to contact the railroad, it's the whole more headache. But if it's one of those businesses, we can go to them and there's a property maintenance issue and have them clean that up.
And the electrical box that's outside that private property that's hanging over onto the sidewalk now, is there anything planned to do anything with that?
Is it on a pole?
No, it's on the ground and it's a large stainless metal box that has electrical wires hanging out.
It's a phone tracks.
It's a phone utility?
Right.
That could be a Verizon issue, but we can contact Verizon and ask them if there's stuff hanging out of it. There shouldn't be. Eric, put that on your list to follow up with Verizon, please.
I don't
There's
think
no
the
way-
speaker identified herself with her address, by the way.
Oh,
106 6th Avenue.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And there's no consideration with regards to the ordinance adding on 6th Avenue.
Like we said, this is a work in progress. We would love to say we got it all at first, but if we find that things aren't working, there is consideration to changing anything at any time. Nothing's cast in stone. We just have to start in one spot and see where it goes. If we find it's not working or it's not good enough, yes, certainly.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome. Kim wants to know, can the council clarify that the concrete work will be completed on Palmer Leave before school resumes? Well, that wouldn't be us, that would be Mike Kelly. Mike, can you tell us whether the sidewalk on Palmer Leave is gonna be done? Is that a town project or is that a school project?
That's a borough project, and
Is that gonna be done?
the concrete work will be done. The road work, the milling and paving of the road will not be done until later in the fall. And we'll have to coordinate that with the school and the police department.
Now, why wouldn't the road work have been done before school?
I think just based on when the project got started, I guess they probably just didn't get started soon enough to get them out there.
I know we always try and do our stuff before school starts. I know when we did around Roosevelt, we made sure it was done before August, the end of August.
Yeah.
I know it's not, I'm not pointing you out, but as a whole, any work around schools, I would have liked that done before school got out.
It was supposed to be done before school resumed.
COVID
I
screwed
don't know why
things
we're
up.
doing Kingston first and then Parmalee. We should have reversed them.
Kingston is also by a school.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, but this one's at the school, Eric.
This is at the school too. Kingston is right alongside the school.
All right, I guess so. All right.
I mean,
We could have staggered it.
should be done before the school started, but they're not, obviously.
Yeah.
They both will not be done.
Or you may want to wait till they have a break in the school year to do the next project then. Otherwise, I can't imagine how it's going to work with school being open.
Well, we're confident that between working with the police department and the school, whether it's during a break or staggered hours, we're confident that we'll make it work.
Okay. Kim says she has a follow-up question.
How long does it normally How long does it normally take to complete a street of that nature, like Parmalee or even Kingston? Kingston, I think, has been going on for 2 weeks now.
In terms of concrete work or the milling and paving?
In terms of the project,
Whole project.
The project probably takes, for that size and that magnitude of a project, you're probably talking 4 weeks, 6 weeks, somewhere in that neighborhood.
You gotta remember that Kingston is a very shorter street compared to Parmalee, which starts at Diamond Bridge and it goes all the way.
Yeah.
That Parmalee is gonna be a long one. They can take their time right in front of Michael's house, but everywhere else they gotta go real fast.
Don't matter to me.
Michael, who sets the schedule for the contractor to start the work? Because when we were in Public Works meeting, it was discussed that the work around the schools would basically be done first, so it's completed by the time school starts.
Yeah, we typically tell the contractor, where we want them to start. The means and methods of the work is really up to the contractor, but we would point out that we want these areas done first, an area by a school. I don't know when this contract was awarded, so I don't know what the schedule is.
I believe there was a provision that they were to be done with Parmalee by Labor Day. And, I believe that was in there. Don't know what's happened that's caused the delay, but
Okay.
I've had some communications with the Boswell people about this today. I don't know whether you were on those emails, Mike, but it's something that we need to follow up further.
Okay. If I may, I'll follow up with you, Eric, tomorrow.
Okay.
In all honesty, even as a parent that has a child going to high school, I would have some serious concerns about them doing some milling and paving during school time, during the school year, if kids are in classrooms. It's just I hope we can schedule something that's either during a break or and it's going to take. We're here in Kingston's taking up to a couple of weeks. I don't know what you can do to manage it, but I think it really needs to be looked at.
Even the odor coming from the blacktop when it's being put down, just goes into the air, and if the windows are open because schools don't have air conditioning, it's going to go into the schools, and we're going to have students that are sick.
All right, we'll look at it.
Okay, next question, Kim wanted to ask a follow-up question. Kim, you want to ask this one verbally, I guess?
Yeah, just thank
Okay.
you. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Fantastic. So you guys kind of answered some of my concerns in your conversation back and forth, so thank you. Just, are we going to be notified ahead of time, given enough notice? Everybody on the street, conversation is in the neighborhood is when is it going to get done? We see people marking, what have you. We haven't heard anything since we got the letters that said it's going to be done, and here's what you're going to be charged for your concrete. And then it's been radio silent, so I think everybody is just kind of, in a holding pattern when, is there some notification that goes out?
Yes, there is notification that goes out, and they will notify before they get on the street, so that you'll know exactly when they're coming. But, I know we've had trouble getting a schedule from the contractor. We've been asking them for it since our pre-construction meeting, which I believe was at the end of June, and they have, for whatever reason, resisted us giving us a schedule, and so we can't tell you right now when they're going to be on each street.
Okay, thank you.
How many days notice, Eric, will she have? You're going to give her a day's notice to move her car, or are you going to give her like a week's notice and say as of next Monday we're going to start doing it?
Well,
You read my mind.
you can't park on the street anyway for more than 24 hours, so we will definitely give more than 24 hours notice. But usually it's like the week before. I'll ask Michael to follow that up with the inspection department, but it's usually the previous week, but definitely it will be, no one will have a car towed because because they're there to do the work after putting a notice out, a few hours ahead of time. It's just not gonna happen.
Okay, so when people,
Did they start doing your tree work at all, Kim? Because I know they've done the other side of Parmalee and Warren, so that side's complete. So when you say the full scope of the project, the tree work, then they rip up the concrete. After they rip up the concrete, they rip the road. After they rip the road, then they level it. After they level it, then they pour the new asphalt. So what level is your side of Parmalee? Because I have not run yours. I was in Warren and the south side of Parmalee recently.
we've had nothing done, and all of the neighbors have been kind of like sticking their heads out every time we see anybody laying down lines or marking things up front. And we keep hearing this summer, but it sounds like now, from what you guys are saying, it's not going to be this summer, unless they miraculously show up and like start sometime soon. So there's nothing been done other than, street marking.
Right. I was out today. I didn't see anything other than tree removal and street marking other than on Kingston. So, which is problematic.
I hate to be the enforcer of the rules again, but once again, can the speaker please identify herself and address?
She's in the chat.
It's okay. Kimberly Majewski.
The chat, though, is not enough. I'm sorry.
Kimberly Majewski, 139 Parmalee.
Thank you.
And
Council
Kim, just,
President.
let me just follow up with Kim 1 second. Kim, just to follow up on a question you asked me on Facebook, I did touch base with Buildings and Grounds over at the Board of Education and let him know about their broken drainage tile and that it was spewing upwards instead of into the ground, and he's going to take a look at it and repair that.
Yeah, fantastic. We thought somebody had already flagged it when they were mowing or something, but
no, they didn't. When he mowed the lawn, he saw the sand there, but he figured somebody just filled in where an old tree root was.
Got it.
Yes, Mike.
Thank you, Council President. It just brings it up again. It's an opportunity for us to do maybe a little improvement in communicating to the community about some of the projects that we're going on and how they can affect them. It's something that I think we may want to look at and saying how can we make sure they have ample enough time to be aware of them, and if they want to address something or they have to make arrangements, personal arrangements, they can do that.
Goes along with the tree notification.
Eric, I have a question. If this has been going on since the pre-construction meeting, which was in June, why can't our attorney send the contractor a letter demanding that we get a schedule from him, and when will he be completed with at least areas around the schools? I think that's most important. I mean, as far as I'm concerned, Mike Kelly, Oak Place, Sylvester Ave, maybe they can wait until the high school gets done, or around any other school. Granted, Sylvester Ave is by Lincoln, but maybe we don't have to do Oak Place. Let's see if we can maneuver this contractor around, because it seems like, he's taking an awful long time. So Kingston Ave was like...
We definitely need to do something at this juncture, since I don't see how it is logistically possible to complete Parmalee before the start of school. To simply demand that they do it quickly may not be our best strategy, because as Mike said, we may need to get the Parmalee done when they're on break, at least the milling and paving of it, because it just, just rather than demanding that they be done quickly, we need to be in a mode and figure out when we really want them to do it, since they didn't meet the deadline. But we'll have conversations with the attorney and engineer as to exactly what our strategy should be, and in terms of forcing the contractor to do what we need done at this point.
Eric, you could
Thank
ask
you.
him what kind of time frame he would suggest just to do from, Farmer Lee from Warburton to Vreeland. You know, that one long block. And at least then you're got the loop around the high school can be done.
Yeah, I think they expect to get the concrete work done in that section first, but it's the rest of the concrete and the milling and paving would be someplace else. We can certainly proceed with the concrete, but I think we need to give some thought when we really want the milling and paving to take place after that, given that we're where we are now.
But you can also, you can do your concrete work and then come back and mill and pave on a nice warm day around Thanksgiving. You know, that's a 3-day project just to pave it and still have warm weather around Thanksgiving break. Whereas your curbs is going to take you a lot longer to do. That you can do in the 3 weeks that we have coming, or 4 weeks that we have left.
Yeah,
for one block.
I mean, the information that I saw today indicated they expected to get the concrete work done, at least in the immediate vicinity of the high school, before Labor Day. It was, when I started asking questions, well, what's going to happen with the rest of the concrete work? What's happening with the milling and paving? Because all that stuff was supposed to be done by Labor Day, and it just doesn't appear that there's any way that that can happen now. So we have to find out what our recourse is, and then also what we want them to do at this point, since they didn't finish when they were supposed to finish.
Hey, Council President. Council President, yeah, just make a note. If they're scheduled to do the concrete before school opens, and we already have a history of them being behind, we may want to secure that information and pat it down, because we don't want that work being done when school's opening on the 8th. Because right now we're looking at the governor just authorized in-person school, so I think we need to really just nail that thing down and make sure that they're going to have it done. And right now we already have a history of them running behind. We don't want to run it. We don't want to run it until the school's open. As much as we defer to that
response. In response to the items raised tonight, we got to get a detailed schedule from the contractor, and we'll review that with administration. I know we've been trying to get that schedule. We're going to have to get that schedule. We got to see what the schedule is, and then we'll review it with administration.
Thank you, Mike. Joe? Are you saying something?
Myself?
I guess not.
No, I didn't say anything.
Oh, I thought you did. Okay. So, seeing no other public, Lori, did you get any emails?
I did not, Council President, no.
Okay, well, there's no other chat.
Motion to close?
Yes, motion by Neely,
Second.
second by Sierra. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Motion carries. The next regular meeting of the municipal council is a virtual meeting on Wednesday, September 2nd at 7 p.m. We have a motion to adjourn.
Motion.
Motion by Sierra, second by Bennett. All those in favor?
Aye.
Good night.
We are adjourned. Good night, all.
Good night.
Good night, everybody.
Thank you. Good night, everyone.